You know, one of the crazy things that God has done to me is He made me emotional. I used to be, one of those guys that was not emotional, so Dusty saves that zinger for the very end, trying to get me wound up, so I got a big lump in my throat as I'm trying to share with you. The thing you should know is that the year we won the American Legion World Series, 1975, my mother was pregnant with Dusty, so she was sitting pregnant while her 19-year-old son, we had a lot to talk about those days, but it has been fun being his brother. I've been mistaken as his dad, which I would love to be his dad too. It'd be an honor. I can't wait, like Brig, for this day to be over. Speaking to this group has made my heart pound for a long, long time. And then as fate would have it, I said yes 2 months ago to speaking to the 8th graders at Wilson Middle School this morning. So you guys are a piece of cake. I had the great opportunity to talk about a new initiative that Ben Soria, who's one of, from my perspective, the great leaders in this community, Rick Lenaway, another great leader in this community, and myself, called Character Counts. And I got to talk about that with the 8th graders a little bit this morning. And the word of the month is honesty. One of the things that we recognize is that sadly, because of things that are going on in our culture, kids just aren't getting the core idea of what it means to be a good citizen, a good man, a good woman. And we've begun this initiative to try to help to inject character qualities that will make good citizens and good people, good dads, good moms. So again, this month's word is honesty. You're going to see that everywhere. We challenge many of you to start using this Character Counts initiative in your businesses and in your organizations. And this is just a reminder that we're off and running, and we're hoping very soon that you'll see those words on city buses. Because we're just determined to make a difference, and we believe that this is a way that we can do that. I had an interesting thing happen. Norm Johnson said to me, hey, the article in the newsletter for Rotary, man, somebody said some really nice things about you. I didn't have the heart to tell Norm that I wrote it myself. And my hope is that you'll still feel that way about what I have to say today, because some of this is personal, some of it is insights, some of it I think have the potential to make you appreciate what we're trying to do more, and some of it, quite honestly, is something that I think might cause you to stir a little bit. It's interesting that I'd be making this kind of a declarations and talking to you when our national economy is doing what it's doing. It is really interesting, but I really do believe I have something important to say today, and you need to understand that there is some incredible momentum in our valley. I think all of us recognize that, and the things that are happening nationally will have an impact on that, and we need to prepare ourselves to try to keep that impact to be as minimal as possible. But I think we've also got some things, some of them long-standing, some of them that nobody talks about, that we need to talk about too, because the goal is to move this community forward. I remember when I was playing single-A baseball in the Mariner organization. I'm kind of a storyteller, and this will make sense when I tie it to everything. But I was a 22nd round draft pick, and you need to understand that there were only 22 rounds that year. And the first round draft pick got $100,000 to sign. I got a peanut butter and jelly sandwich and a road map to Bellingham to sign. And so I knew I had to get some people's attention. And Dan O'Brien was the president at the time of the Mariners, and I knew he was coming to the ballpark. And I was taking ground balls at third base, which was real close to where the gate was that you came into the ballpark. So my eyes were on that gate because I knew he was coming to the ballpark. And sure enough, I see him coming across the parking lot. And as soon as he enters the gate, I stop what I'm doing and square him up and say, Mr. O'Brien, I'm Dave Edler. It's nice to meet you. And we were doing very well that year, and he said, boy, you guys are almost as good as the Mariners, which we were absolutely better than this year's Mariners, I can tell you that right now. And I simply shot back to him, yeah, we are, and I'd like a chance to prove that. And he walked away from me and had a conversation with our manager who was behind the batting cage, and then he came back, and I could tell that I'd rattled him. And he actually came back towards me, and again, I squared him up, and And he said, so you'd like a chance to prove that. And again, locked in, and I don't usually act this way, but I knew I had to do something so that they could see me and hear me, and I knew he was important. So I said, I do want that opportunity, and I want it as soon as possible. And the end of the next summer, I got called to the big leagues for the first time, and when I sat in the room to have a conversation with them, he stated to me, I never forgot that conversation. And again, one of the things that, and the reason I tell that story is I think we have some very important things to talk about as a community. And this is one of those times where I think we have important things to talk about. One of the things that we, again, are recognizing, and I think it's very important for you to understand, is we are recognizing opportunity in this valley like we've never seen before. I mean, there are so many wonderful things happening. After I spoke to the 8th graders, I went downtown and sat with the ownership group of the mill property, and we are still discussing how we can best develop and help them develop that particular piece of property. You saw just a couple of weeks ago that we positioned ourselves as a community where we're going to receive $25 million in state dollars that will help us to do that. And that's not an accident. That's something that has been pressed on, worked on, and we're moving this community forward. I thought I'd just share some of the things that are either in the works or headed towards completion, just so that you'll understand. And I want to talk, I know I'm the mayor of the city of Yakima, but I personally think beyond that, and I think most of us think beyond that too. And I want to begin by just talking about this I-82 corridor, which I know Rotary is so interested in and so committed to and has done so many great things to help realize the replacement of a blighted neighborhood with some of the most beautiful ballparks and green space, and that is all very, very important. And yet you also need to know that we've been lobbying. There's a group called Transaction. I'm just a member of that. And we're hoping to see the south intersection in Union Gap changed and a connector made so that you come right off the south interchange, connect to a tandem which will be developed out, and we'll have another major transportation opportunity on a tandem all the way west that will connect to a west side connector, we're calling it, which really in a place like Yakima, where we have the limits that we do with regards to our geography, to have a circle road is something that we need to continue to move people and to continue to move freight and those things that are important to us. So that is a key piece of it. You're seeing what's happening to Valley Mall Boulevard, and again I would say to you that the city of Yakima lobbied every bit as hard as Union Gap to see that realized, because it's important to our community. The development of the intersection there at SR 24 and the wonderful art that is now there, and we're hoping to continue to be a piece of what we do as a community, what we realize as a community. And it was City Council Member Mary Place that was a part of the subcommittee with Bob Hall that realized that beauty on that particular intersection. And as you all know, it opened up a great corridor to East Valley, where we believe is an opportunity for incredible development to happen out on that corridor. And we purpose to connect our two city UGAs so that we could develop that and bring the infrastructure necessary so that that whole corridor would be opened up to future development in the Yakima Valley. One of my favorite pieces of that whole thing is a group of people that are working to see a soccer complex realized on the other side of our freeway. Again, creating this, what I hope to be someday a park-like setting all the way through the Yakima Valley, with the Greenway on one side, this new soccer facility on that side, and then the things that we can accomplish on the east side as we move forward. Which reminds me of another meeting I just had this last week with Representative Frank Chop, who is the Speaker of the House, and the meeting was led by Ben Soria again and his staff. But we're trying to find some dollars so that we can put field turf in Zeffel Stadium and see Zeffel Stadium remodeled, see locker rooms put into that facility, see a new press box put in. You possibly know this, but all the other cities on the east side of this state have begun that process. They've rallied around projects like this one to see their community improve. And that, again, is one of the wonderful things we're working on. Yakima Avenue, we recognize and realize the importance of that project. The mill property is, again, a key piece of that. One of the things that I'm hoping, Kathy Coffey is here with me, Micah Colley is another member of an aquatics task force, and we really do believe that, that this city deserves good things, and we're working to see that realized. One of the wonderful things you may or may not have heard of, but we're also working with the county because we believe we need another connector to Terrace Heights. The intersection right out here in front of us is the busiest intersection overpass in our city. And we're already beginning to discuss a bridge into the north side of Terrace Heights to realize another opportunity for citizens to move into the Yakima Valley and move forward. I want to encourage Rotary to continue to move to try to see these properties purchased south of that of Yakima Avenue, so that we can again continue to see the parks and the park-like setting created. One of the wonderful little pieces with the Aquatic Center is the idea that the YMCA would move in as a partnership, and because of that we'd see a brand new YMCA in our community, which I think is a very important asset to our community, one of the great organizations that is doing good things in our community. We've moved the improvements down Yakima Avenue. We can all see them. We're all proud of them. We're working on the core of the area now. We've got another phase that we're piecing together a proposal for our legislature to see more of the core area enhanced, which would include connecting this facility to that those particular improvements and connecting what will be the mill site and the greenway. We are, again, intent on seeing our community restored. We've just begun discussions at North First Street with some business leaders up there, and if I get my way, all of First Street will see the same improvements that Yakima Avenue has seen. It's just time, from my perspective, for us to continue to move and to push. I'm not going to steal their thunder, but all of us, or many of us, have heard what the Capitol Theater intends to do. That is a wonderful project that the community, I'm hoping, will get behind and continue to work on. As you probably know, because of the national economy, retail's kind of taken a step back, but the North 16th interchange on 12, they still intend to do that. Wonderful article in the paper today about all of the projects that are happening around here. I don't need to talk about those. I do need to say to you, though, that one of the things that we're lobbying for the city of Yakima is an improved Sun Tides, believe it or not, interchange. Because that west side connector, again, if we realize what we think we can realize and need to realize, we'll be able to connect citizens in Yakima all the way from Matanum to that intersection, so that you will have a viable road that has the capacity to hold traffic. So again, those are just traffic issues and things that are going on. This year, there are $84 million in projects that the city of Yakima is pressing. In the next 5 years, there's $166 million in projects that we're pursuing and a part of. And the thing that I think you need to understand, and I didn't really understand it until I dove into the midst of what I'm involved in city politics, but those kind of dollars turn over in the community over and over and over and over again. I've heard 7 to 10 times. Bob Hall corrected me and told me it was 4 to 7 times. I responded, if they just turn over once, that's a pretty good deal. One of the things that has been important to me personally is public safety. And one of the things that I'm driving for, and this is where I really do step into a personal conversation with you, one of the things that I'm striving for is to see us recognize and realize just the western states average with regards to how many police officers we have on the streets of our community. You need to understand that that would probably cost in excess of $1.1 to $1.2 million a year. We have pursued grant after grant after grant to improve our public safety, and one of the things that I think you need to recognize is that we're eligible for those grants because of some of the dysfunction and brokenness of our community. And as citizens, I would hate to think that we're satisfied with just chasing down grants to put Band-Aids on some of our dysfunction, and would be more interested in truly recognizing solutions that will make our community a better place to live. And to me, if we had the Western states average of police officers on our streets, we'd see much less graffiti, much less gang violence, much less drug violence. It truly is, from my perspective, part of where we need to go. I'm a proud member of a group called Citizens for Safe Yakima Valley Communities. We are the group that put forth Proposition 1, which failed, and I'll talk about that later. Also with fire, you know that we have an EMS levy that we've approved that's coming forward. My hope is that we will approve that as a community, because if we do approve that as a community, we will be in a place where we are very close to the Western states average with regards to how many firemen we need per thousands of people. And it's, again, an initiative that I have tried to champion and encourage the rest of our council to champion. Last, as I deal with this particular piece of it, because I didn't say this yet, but what I want you to understand is that as your president, Greg, asked me to do, this is, in a lot of ways, footprints, looking forward. What can we be? Where are we going as a community? What are the things that we're looking at? And as I started to think about that and started to wrestle with that, and I quite honestly lost sleep over that, because I think that what I'm sharing with you is really the tale of two cities. Because what I've just described to you is the city that I hope we become. What I'm concerned about is that we won't become that city. And again, that's what I want you to understand. We're working very closely with every government agency in our area to regionalize what we're doing, to try to deal with the shortcomings that we have. But I want you to understand that I also believe that and many of you have read the book, The Tipping Point, that we, City of Yakima government, are at that place. And if you know you don't really believe that, please read your paper and look at what's happening in Wapato and Toppenish and Sunnyside and Prosser and all of those other communities, because they're not making the decisions they're making there because they haven't reached the tipping point. What I want to say to you is that the other city that I will describe to you will realize just a fraction of what I've just described to you. Just a fraction of that. We will continue to have crime issues. We won't have new schools. We'll never realize an aquatic center. Our parks and recreation department will go away. Our roads will continue to go into decline. Our infrastructure will continue to disintegrate. Again, the tipping point, you need to understand, in the current climate in the state of Washington, the cost of services for a municipality like Yakima are rising between 7 and 9% annually. Our revenues are capped at a 1% increase, Now, most of you are business people, organizational people. You recognize that that's not a formula that allows you to continue to grow and to continue to move an organization forward. In other words, the formula doesn't work. And as we as communities have gone to the legislature and to the state, they said to us that they would backfill. Much of this is the result of the initiative process that most of us, a great majority of us, voted for. And I just want to encourage you to think about our current situation. I do not believe that we're going to see any backfill, especially with the projected deficit that is being announced to our state. As a matter of fact, they're slashing jobs and cutting back on dollars too. I want you to know I believe we benefited from the good years that our state has experienced. And yet they haven't, our state legislature hasn't come through with actual resources for us to backfill. But they did do this because we began to cry locally. If you're not going to give us state resources, then give us local options. And I love that statement because for politicians it makes it less painful. Local options means give us the ability to tax ourselves. Now, think about where we live. Yakima, Washington. And then talk about taxing yourselves. And think about the realities of that happening. And here's the wonderful thing that I think is this is a wonderful thing, and that is that we have somebody to blame. And we do. We have someone to blame. We can blame the state for our condition. We can blame the feds for our condition. Or, from my perspective, we can kind of hump up and take care of things ourselves. I want to tell you a story about Dusty real quick, and I'm winding down. Dusty, like most young high school ball players, thought he was all that and some more. I mean, he really did think he was something. And by that time, I'd finished my professional career, and I'd come home, and I just asked him one day, Dusty, what do you want to do with your life? And he goes, I want to play professional baseball. And I said, well, doggone, that's a good vision, that's a good goal. I said, Dusty, here's what I want you to do. At every step of the way, you got to find out what these people want, what they expect from you, and you got to do everything you can to give it to them. You got to do everything you can to catch their eye, to catch their attention. What they want, you got to give it to them because they make the decisions. And I'll never forget his response. Typical of anybody in high school. I'm not kissing anybody's butt. To which I responded, quite honestly, then you'll never play in the big leagues. Now, the reason I tell that story is one of the things that I strive to do in my life and in leading the organizations that I lead is figuring out how the game is played and then playing it as best I can to win. As best I can to win. And what I'm saying to you as the mayor of this city is that I actually believe there's a little bit of that arrogance in us, in this community. There's a little bit that says, I don't care what they say, we're not doing it that way. And, you know, I don't know how to describe it other than just declare it. And this is where I'm turning the corner where, well, if this is the last time I speak to Rotary, thank you so much for this opportunity. I have truly enjoyed myself. But here's the second piece of that. I just simply call that the system or who we are. You know, that could be a piece of this. But there's another thing that is troubling, if not more troubling to me. I've already heard this about the aquatic center. I'm not going to vote yes for that aquatic center because I'm not going to build a place for those Mexicans to swim. And we as a community don't like to throw that out into the open. But I don't think we can hide from that anymore. Because I believe it's the very same sentiment that says, I don't want to vote for new schools so those Mexicans will have nice schools. I asked Ben Soria for permission to share this with you because I was sitting there talking to him about this. And his statement was, and again, I want to declare to you that Ben Soria is one of the finest leaders in this community. You want a leader. Ben Soria is one of the finest leaders in this community. And he said, when it comes to school bond time, I purposefully don't throw myself out in front because I'm Hispanic. And when I made the declaration to him about already hearing, which I did, about already hearing that people were saying, I'm not going to vote for an aquatic center because I don't want a place for the Mexicans to swim, I watched his head tip back and his eyes close and pain fill his face. I don't want to live in a community that allows that to be the reality in their community. One last little question that I'll ask you. I asked for these numbers. I'm going to give you some percentages, and then I'll fill in the blanks, and I'm done. How much time? Am I doing all right?
Well, we'd like to save a little time for questions, so yeah.
Well, I'm going to eat up that question time if at all possible. Here are the percentages: 71%, 53%, 37%, 26%, 18%. 71% of people over 60 vote. 53% of people in their 50s vote. 37% of people in their 40s vote. 26% of people in their 30s vote. 18% of people in their 20s vote. Those numbers come from Yakima, Washington. Those aren't national numbers, that's Yakima, Washington. Now here's something that concerns me. Something that concerns me. The two major voting blocks in Yakima, Washington are people who wonderfully built our community, who put in schools and pools and streets and parks and did great things. And here's my concern. My concern is as we look to move our community forward, those two major voting blocks are saying no. And they're saying no because they've already done it, and they don't want to do it again. And I think that my challenge to that generation would be very simple. What do you want your legacy to be? Do you want your legacy to be that you left a crumbling culture, or that when you needed to buck up again, you bucked up again and helped move our community forward? My second challenge is I know that there's an incredible drive to get younger, and I want to challenge you to challenge those younger generations that they have a voice and that they need to vote and they need to get involved. It's amazing how many people I talk to. We need new high schools, young people. Are you registered to vote? No. I want that aquatic center. I want that. I want my kids to have that place to go. Are you registered to vote? No. So again, part of what I want to say to you in this tale of two cities is that we really are, from my perspective, very close, if not already there and past the tipping point. And I really do believe that the footprint that I want to leave is one that has absolutely been a blessing to the community that I live in. I believe that those ideals are what drive Rotarians, and that's why I've had this very frank conversation with Rotarians, because I do believe, much like I wanted the ear of Dan O'Brien, I wanted your ear today, because we need to move this community forward. It's fragile, it's wonderful, but we can take this community to places that it has never realized and improve the quality of life for all of us. I made this statement as I was running. I want to make this a great place to live, to work, to play, and to go to school. And that's still the vision that drives me. So again, I'm honored to have this opportunity. Pleased to have your ears. And Dusty's now just become my bodyguard.
That's great.